Wow, you smell so bad.
As soon as I came back from my part-time job wearing my tattered clothes, my mother-in-law raised her voice as if she'd been waiting for this moment.
Just get out.
Cole, who had taken a day off, appeared at the entrance, backing her up. All right then. When I responded as if nothing had happened, Cole and my mother-in-law exchanged looks.
All right then? What are you even talking about?
Cole, his voice filled with anger, stepped closer to me. What am I talking about? Didn't you just tell me to leave? And calling me smelly? Of course I'm leaving. I retrieved the divorce papers from the back room and threw them at Cole. Then I packed up my belongings and left, taking Sam and Stella with me. Stella, perhaps convinced by Sam, didn't say a word as she grabbed her things and followed me. On our way to my parents' house, where I had already let them know, Sam looked up at me and murmured,
"Mom, mission accomplished, huh?"
Smiling, I nodded and headed to my parents' house with the two of them. My name is Tamara Sloan. I'm a 45-year-old woman and a mother of two. Right now, I live with my husband, Cole, his mother, my son, Sam, and my daughter, Stella, in the same house. Sam is 12 years old and started middle school this year. People say kids grow up fast, but for me, these 12 years have been like hell. To explain my current situation, I need to go back to when I first met Cole. We met after both of us were in our 30s. Having already been in the workforce for years, we started dating with marriage in mind. I was 31, and Cole was 33. Though we didn't meet through matchmaking or online dating by that age, it was naturally understood that any relationship would have marriage as a goal. I had always been shy and had little experience with relationships. Honestly, I had almost given up on marriage. But then, I met Cole through work and fell in love. At the time, Cole was working as a salesperson. However, even after turning 30, he was far off the promotion track and had no prospect of a pay raise. Even so, I still held on to this fairy tale-like belief that marriage and love aren't about money, so I never hesitated to marry due to financial concerns. Unlike me, Cole was good-looking, and from the bits and pieces of his stories, I got the sense that he'd had his fair share of fun in the past. But I believed that was all behind him now, and that he loved only me. About a year after we started dating, Cole proposed, and we ended up getting married. The following year, we were blessed with our son, Sam. Having a child made me happy, but I had a serious concern that weighed heavily on me. It was about the relationship with Cole's mother, with whom I started living after our marriage.
Not to spring this on you after proposing, but if we get married, I'd like you to move in with my family. If I leave, my mom will be all alone, so I want us to live together.
A few days after his proposal, Cole suddenly brought this up. Of course, I was nervous about living with a mother-in-law I hadn't even met yet. But I couldn't bring myself to turn down the mother of someone I loved.
If your mom's okay with it, then so am I.
Without much thought, I gave Cole the okay on the spot. Sometime later, I met his mother for the first time during our initial family introduction. At that time, I didn't get the impression that she was unpleasant or mean-spirited. I was anxious about living together, but she seemed cheerful and kind. I foolishly believed this after only a superficial conversation with her. However, once I moved in, my impression of her completely flipped.
Tamara, who do you think you are, acting high and mighty when you barely make any money?
When I married and moved into Cole's family home, I left my previous job. I started working part-time in an unfamiliar town. It wasn't easy to find a full-time job, so I settled for part-time work as a temporary solution. However, my mother-in-law nagged me about it relentlessly, criticizing me almost every single day. From the very first day I moved in, she seemed like a completely different person than when we'd first met.
As long as you live here, you'll do whatever Cole and I say first and foremost.
It was Cole's request that I move into his family home. To be clear, I never wanted to live here in the first place. Despite that, my mother-in-law has maintained the attitude that she's letting me stay here from the beginning.
Your mom doesn't seem to like me. Do we really need to live here?
A few days after moving in, I confided this to Cole. He immediately exploded, yelling at me.
Don't be ridiculous. Don't you have any sense of kindness? Mom's just holding back and saying those things out of consideration. Can't you see that?
Was he seriously suggesting that her bullying was her way of being considerate to me? I was disillusioned by Cole's words and overwhelmed with regret. Yet, there was nothing I could do. At the time, I couldn't even imagine divorce over something like this. I genuinely believed I had said something wrong. I apologized to Cole and convinced myself that I hadn't been thoughtful enough toward his mother. By ignoring my own unease, I ended up in a state of near brainwashing. No matter how unfairly I was treated or what was said to me, I believed it was all because of my own shortcomings. While juggling housework and my part-time job, I might have been able to avoid overthinking thanks to how busy I was. About a year later, my son, Sam, was born. To be honest, my feelings for Cole had almost completely faded by then, but I genuinely found my baby adorable. Sam became my reason for living, without a doubt. Even though I had convinced myself that Cole and my mother-in-law were in the right, it didn't change the fact that my environment was a living hell. I endured each painful and difficult day, but with Sam as someone to protect, I gradually started to reclaim myself. Every day, I'd wake up early to do housework, head to my part-time job, come home in the evening to prepare dinner, and then clean up and get the bath ready. Perhaps because he saw me working so hard, Sam grew into a child who listened to me well. 6 years after Sam was born, we had our second child. It was a girl, and we named her Stella. By the time Sam graduated elementary school, he had grown into a remarkably intelligent and kind boy who could surprise even adults. Even in elementary school, he was a great big brother who often played with Stella.
Mom, I'm in middle school now, so I'll help with the housework. It's only natural for anyone living here to pitch in.
Sam said this with a calm expression, and I found myself placing more and more hope in him. Meanwhile, My mother-in-law grew increasingly bitter and mean-spirited as the years passed.
Sam, school is your job, so leave the housework to your mom. If you keep doing things like this, how will you ever grow up to be as impressive as your father?
By this point, the intelligent Sam had fully understood the mean-spirited nature of his grandmother and father. He even began questioning the harsh treatment directed toward me. As Sam matured, he developed a strong dislike for Cole and my mother-in-law, and because of that, he looked to me with even greater trust.
Mom does both housework and a job. If you're really a respectable adult, it's natural to handle both, just like her.
Even when responding to my mother-in-law's nagging, he confidently wove in his own thoughts. It was enough to make you wonder who the real adult was. Perhaps because my mother-in-law knew deep down that Sam was right, she never strongly argued back against him. She likely understood she'd be outmatched. As Sam left the room, he glanced at me and then headed to his own space.
Such a cheeky kid. I wonder who he gets it from.
With Sam standing up for me, I felt much more at ease than before. Although Sam never resorted to physical force, his presence as a middle school boy seemed to make my mother-in-law hesitate to harass me directly as often. On the other hand, Cole's personal life deteriorated further as Sam grew older. Even though there wasn't a specific reason, it seemed Cole's pride was wounded by the fact that he was still a low-level employee over 40 years old.
The reason I can't get promoted is because of you, Tamara. I can't give my all because you're not devoted enough to support me.
After coming home from work, he'd drink and shout at me. Sam would admonish him every day, but that only fueled Cole's anger even more.
And you too. Don't talk back to your father, you disrespectful brat.
Although Cole never resorted to violence, the tension in these exchanges was palpable and deeply uncomfortable. Amid this daily chaos, Cole's infidelity came to light. One evening, as he was drinking and berating me as usual, I, normally silent, couldn't suppress my pent-up anger any longer. Enough is enough. Every single day, you blame your own incompetence on me. It's beyond pathetic. I shouted, slamming the table, and Cole retaliated by throwing the beer from his glass all over me.
Don't you dare talk back. You're a worthless wife who doesn't earn anything. You should be grateful I married you, because no one else would have. I still have plenty of women throwing themselves at me, you know. I could toss you out anytime I want.
I wiped the beer off my face and stood up. Don't mess with me. Who do you think you are? At that moment, Sam came rushing out of his room, alarmed by the commotion.
Mom, Dad, what are you two doing? Calm down, both of you. Dad, words can hurt people deeply too.
Sam, while admonishing both of us, openly criticized Cole's actions. Perhaps Sam's words struck a chord, as Cole's expression suddenly shifted to one of calm.
You think you can lecture me like that?
Looking embarrassed, Cole retreated to the room where my mother-in-law was.
Mom, are you okay? Here, use this towel and go take a bath.
Handing me a towel he had brought, Sam began cleaning up the mess on the table. I tried to help, but Sam firmly said that he would do himself. and directed me toward the bathroom. What am I even doing? As I sank into the warm water, tears began to flow. Every day, I endured Cole's verbal abuse and lived in constant fear of upsetting either him or my mother-in-law. I had forced my middle school-age son to bear the burden of these ugly family dynamics. Stella was also getting old enough to understand things, and I couldn't keep showing her this toxic environment. On top of that, Cole's remarks earlier confirmed his infidelity, what I had already suspected. He often went out without explanation on weekends and came home late at night. It was clear he thought I wouldn't divorce him, no matter what he did. And in a way, he was right. I had Sam and Stella to think about, and finding a new job at my age wouldn't be easy. Besides, both Cole and my mother-in-law wouldn't want to lose someone as useful as me. Even if I gathered evidence of his affairs, they would find a way to dismiss it, knowing I'd likely give up. They'd use Sam and Stella as leverage to corner me. Given all this, I felt utterly powerless to change my situation with just a part-time job. After that day, Cole began openly bragging about his affairs.
If you want to leave, go ahead. But think about what's best for Sam and Stella. They still need a lot of money for their future. Do you really know what would happen to them without a father around?
Despite his modest income, Cole managed to manipulate me emotionally with disgusting ease.
You know, all of this is because you aren't holding up your end of things. If you don't want to be cheated on, maybe you should reflect on your own behavior first.
With both Cole and my mother-in-law ganging up on me, I fell back into my old brainwashed state. Still, for the sake of Sam and Stella, I pushed myself harder than ever, exhausting my body with housework, childcare, and my part-time job. Barely holding myself together, I soldiered on day after day. One day, I realized I had stopped caring about my appearance, and the clothes I was wearing were in tatters. Wearing clothes this worn out. But it's all for my kids. Even when coworkers whispered and laughed at me behind my back, I repeated this to myself and carried on. As my physical and emotional state continued to deteriorate, I saw no way out of this nightmare. Meanwhile, Cole's infidelity only escalated. To make matters worse, he spent money on his mistress and barely contributed to the household expenses. I had no choice but to scrape by using the savings I had painstakingly built and my meager part-time income.
Maybe if you tried harder, we wouldn't be stuck with such pathetic meals. No wonder Cole feels the need to cheat.
Because of the severely reduced grocery budget, our meals were inevitably unimpressive. Who exactly do you think caused all this? What gives you the right to say such things? Despite these thoughts, I continued to apologize to my mother-in-law every day.
When is Dad coming home?
Since Stella was born, Cole had barely been involved in parenting. To Stella, Cole was still her father, even if only in name. I understood why she felt lonely. However, there was no way I could tell her his affair.
You have me, Stella, don't you?
Whenever Stella got upset, Sam always stepped in to calm her down.
Mom, are you awake? Wait, did you not sleep again? You're going to collapse if you keep this up.
Finding time for myself in this household was nearly impossible. When I absolutely needed it, I would do things after everyone else had gone to bed. Yeah, I just had a few things I needed to finish. Sam leaned in, worry evident on his face, but then he lowered his voice and whispered in my ear.
Can we talk for a moment? I've got something to tell you.
I took a sip of my now cold coffee and nodded. What could this be? Is there something he wants? Sam rarely asked for anything. That's why I found endearing. But as he quietly began to explain his thoughts, I felt the smile fade from my face. Sam, are you serious about this? Sam had only just started middle school, but he was already far more mature than I had ever expected. I could tell that by the time he brought this up to me, his mind was made up.
I've thought about this for a long time, and I believe it's the best choice. Besides, I'm certain it'll work.
And so, I listened to Sam's plan to escape this hellish life. 3 days later, the day came.
You smell awful.
As I returned from my part-time job in my tattered clothes, my mother-in-law greeted me with her usual snide remarks. Although my clothes were properly washed, they were undeniably shabby. Seeing this, my mother-in-law exaggeratedly made snide remarks at me.
Why don't you just leave?
Cole, who had taken the day off, appeared at the entrance and joined in on her taunts. Hearing the commotion, Sam peeked out from his room to watch what was happening. All right, I replied nonchalantly, as if nothing were amiss. Cole and my mother-in-law exchanged confused looks. They couldn't understand what was going on.
All right. What the hell are you saying?
Cole barked, his voice full of anger as he stepped closer to me. What am I saying? Didn't you just tell me to leave? And after being called smelly, why wouldn't I? You obviously want me gone. Not that you two can do anything on your own. I replied with dripping sarcasm, which only made Cole and my mother-in-law turn red with anger and lash out at me.
How dare you talk back? You're a useless slob, and no one's going to miss you when you're gone.
If you're leaving, take the kids with you. I'm going to live with my young, beautiful girlfriend anyway.
Hearing this, I pulled out my phone and pointed the screen at both of them. I've recorded what you just said, so don't think you can make excuses later about custody or claiming I left without reason. At my words, Cole clicked his tongue.
Who'd waste their time suing someone like you? You've got no money, and it'd just be a loss for me. I'll fill out the divorce papers, so hurry up and sign them already.
As if I had been waiting for this moment, I retrieved the divorce papers from the back room and threw them at Cole. Then I packed my belongings and left, taking Sam and Stella with me. Stella, perhaps having been convinced by Sam beforehand, silently grabbed her things and followed me. On our way to my parents' house, where I had already informed them we were coming, Sam looked up at me and murmured,
Mom, mission accomplished.
Smiling, I nodded and continued on with the two of them toward my parents' house. For the next 3 months, there was no contact from Cole or my mother-in-law. The divorce papers Cole signed on the day I left were successfully processed. But one day, that peaceful period came to an abrupt end. That morning, my phone was flooded with calls from both Cole and my mother-in-law. Naturally, I ignored every single one of them. I knew exactly why they were calling so incessantly.
They finally realized, haven't they?
Sam said cheerfully as he watched my phone vibrate non-stop. Now that the heat's on them, they're finally waking up. But serves them right. They're going to lose everything now. With that, I turned on the TV and started flipping through channels. It didn't take long to find the news I was looking for.
Author Tamara Marsh, who won the prestigious Women's Book Award a few days ago, was reportedly divorced a few months ago. The reasons behind her divorce are shocking. Already a hot topic in the media, we've recreated the tyrannical behavior of her ex-husband and former mother-in-law in a drama.
The morning news show began airing a short reenactment.
Grandma doesn't look this pretty in real life. They should have cast someone meaner looking.
Sam laughed as he watched the TV. All of this had been thanks to the plan Sam devised. From the day he rescued me from the depths of despair, everything had started to change. 3 months earlier, having studied literature, I had pursued writing as a hobby during whatever little free time I had. That day, I had stayed up all night at my computer, finishing a manuscript for a project. In fact, one of my works had recently been selected for a prestigious literary award. Following this, requests for more writing projects poured in, and I quickly found myself on the path to becoming a best-selling author. I could hardly believe this dreamlike situation was real, but winning such a well-known award brought attention to my work, and my books started flying off the shelves. Moreover, a publishing house offered substantial financial support to help me focus solely on my writing. But of course, I hadn't told Cole or my mother-in-law any of this. If they found out, they'd surely try to take every cent I earned. Although I now had enough income to leave them, I knew that initiating a divorce myself would give them an excuse to hide Cole's infidelity and demand alimony from me. They'd likely accuse me of betraying them and abandoning my responsibilities. Foreseeing this, I hesitated to break free from my current life, even with the opportunities laid out before me. At that moment, Sam came to me with a plan.
If you're the one to ask for a divorce, they'll try to take your money, right? Then why not make them say they want the divorce first? If we record it, the media could use it in a special feature.
I understood exactly what Sam was getting at. No matter how hard I tried, Cole and my mother-in-law would twist the situation to their advantage. If that's the case, using the power of the media to expose them was the way to go. That way, neither of them would be able to use underhanded tactics to threaten me. Even if their names were withheld, they'd be identified soon enough, so I wouldn't need to take any action myself. To carry out Sam's plan, I consulted with the publishing company that had been supporting me.
We've heard your family situation was difficult, but this is just horrific. Threatening women and children to have their way, absolutely unacceptable.
They immediately sprang into action. Thanks to their support, I resolved to go through with the divorce and began preparing to leave with Sam and Stella. However, on the day of the operation, the lead role belonged to Sam. His plan was to provoke Cole and my mother-in-law into saying cruel things about me while I was out at work.
Mom always wears such shabby clothes, and kids at school laugh at her when they see her. Dad, Grandma, stop making her do everything by herself. All you do is complain and don't lift a finger.
Predictably, Cole and my mother-in-law, unaware of our scheme, fell right into the trap. When I returned home, the two of them, fueled by Sam's words, lashed out at me.
Even though life would be harder without Mom, Dad always loses his temper. He won't think it through and will definitely say he wants a divorce. Grandma, I don't think she's capable of thinking rationally anymore either.
Sam's sarcastic reassurance to my worries made me smile wryly. Just as Sam predicted, Cole and my mother-in-law played right into our hands. 2 hours after ignoring their incessant calls, the doorbell at my parents' house rang violently. From the commotion, I realized Cole and my mother-in-law had come in person. My father, to whom I had explained everything, rushed to the door and opened it, fuming.
"What's wrong with you people? Pressing someone's doorbell like maniacs."
Momentarily cowed by my father's imposing demeanor, Cole and my mother-in-law soon spotted me and brushed past him, barging into the house.
What the hell was that? And on top of it all, you became an author without telling me your husband. You think you can get away with making money behind my back?
You traitor. After all we've done for you, how could you do this? Because of you, there's been a crowd of idiots with cameras outside our house since this morning.
As expected, their misconduct had been exposed. Even Cole's mistress, who had rushed to his house that morning, had been caught on camera by the media. It seemed the mistress who had badmouthed me thoroughly was now also suffering the consequences.
Because of you, my precious Kelly sent me a breakup email, and now there's a message on my voicemail from my company saying they need to have an important talk with me. What are you going to do about this?
Cole and my mother-in-law cornered me with angry expressions, but it was already too late. I clicked my tongue and glared at them. Enough with the whining and nonsense. What were you thinking, barging into someone else's house like this? This is clearly trespassing and harassment. Sam and Stella, clinging to my arms, played their part by trembling and looking frightened.
Stop it. Don't hurt us. Help.
Stella cried out theatrically, and panic flickered across Cole and my mother-in-law's faces.
As Tamara said, you're trespassing in someone else's home without permission. Keep this up and I'll call the police.
Trespassing? We were married once. Surely this doesn't count.
Cole stammered, trying to defend himself, but I quickly followed up. You're just here to threaten me because you're after the money I earned, right? You're talking about defamation, but all I did was tell the truth. During the award interview, I simply shared my struggles and played the recording of your abusive words. I haven't lied about anything, and I wasn't the one who leaked it to the media. What I was saying was nothing but the truth. And because of that, both of them fell silent. And as for the cameras showing up, or getting dumped by your mistress, or possibly being fired from your job, none of that has anything to do with me. It's all your own fault. You're embarrassing yourselves in front of the kids. Do you really think I orchestrated this?
We're fine with just Mom, Grandpa, and Grandma. Can you unrelated people leave? Stella's scared.
Being denied by both my son and daughter, Cole was visibly flustered. How did I ever fall for such a pathetic man? I felt an overwhelming urge to slap my past self.
Don't mess with me, all of you. I'll sue for alimony.
I quickly shot back at his words. Alimony? What grounds do you have to demand alimony? You're the one who said, "Get out because we're divorcing," right? And who was it that kept insulting me, saying I was too smelly and more? As I fired off my questions, the two of them, clearly cornered, began to tremble. Come on, tell me. What are you claiming alimony for? Tell me now. I closed in on Cole and my mother-in-law, venting all my pent-up frustration.
I just called the police, and they'll be here soon.
At that moment, my mother appeared from the back and shouted toward us.
The police?
Cole's mother was now in full panic mode, but my mom addressed her calmly.
Do I need to explain? You're no longer family. Surely you understand whether it's right or wrong to barge into someone else's home uninvited?
She spoke slowly, as if explaining to a child. But this only seemed to heighten their fear. The bravado they had when they first arrived was completely gone. Even a child knows better than you two. I won't say anything else since you're strangers now, but I'm ashamed to have ever been associated with such criminals. Before long, 2 police officers arrived at the door in response to the call. Seeing them, my mother-in-law collapsed weakly on the spot.
We've already been briefed about the situation over the phone. Since there are young children here, we'd like to continue this discussion at the station.
My mother-in-law and Cole were escorted into the police car.
I've been informed about the situation by your mother. I'm sure this has been a frightening experience, but you're safe now. Please don't hesitate to reach out.
One of the female officers, before leaving, handed me her business card. Her words brought a wave of relief over me. Sam, Stella, I'm so sorry. Even though I had explained the situation, it was wrong to expose my children to such ugly behavior from adults. I hugged them tightly and apologized over and over. My parents, watching us, looked visibly relieved. I immediately contacted my publishing company to report the incident.
Understood. We've already been contacted by the police as well. Leave the rest to us. The recordings you provided were truthful, and we've done nothing wrong. You're completely fine.
And with that, Sam's and my plan was a complete success. A few days later, I learned what became of Cole and my mother-in-law through the news. The 2 of them had been issued a stern warning by the police and were ordered never to approach me or my family again. If they break the promise, they'll face arrest this time. Cole and his mother's abusive words toward me and my children were featured on the news, and the 2 of them were openly avoided by their neighbors, eventually prompting them to move away. However, their subsequent lives were still closely followed by the media. Cole was fired from his job and sued for a large amount of damages for tarnishing the company's image. On top of that, I hired a lawyer through my publishing company and filed for compensation from Cole and his mother. The enormous sum of money they owed in compensation was staggering to even imagine. A few days after the news coverage, it was reported that Cole had been hospitalized for mental health issues. However, the court refused to reduce the damages owed to me or his former company. The court asserted that he must take full responsibility for his actions. Seeing Cole on TV, it was clear that his breakdown wasn't an act. He was truly cornered and seemed to have suffered a mental breakdown. Abandoned by his beloved mistress and having lost me, the foundation of his life, he had nothing left. He was fired from his job and now has to continue paying a significant amount in damages. It was easy to imagine how such circumstances could lead to a mental breakdown. But this was all his own doing. It was the price he paid for pursuing his selfish desires and abandoning me and our children. Although the media coverage on Cole and his mother eventually subsided, my own prominence as a writer continued to grow. As a woman who overcame hardship, the wave of publicity further boosted my popularity. Of course, my success was also due to the years of effort I had dedicated to my writing. But the events of the past few months undoubtedly accelerated my rise. The saying, "After a storm comes a calm," perfectly describes this situation. Just a short while ago, I couldn't have imagined being able to speak so lightheartedly about it. I owe this happiness to the support of my publishing team, my parents, and especially Sam and Stella. Grateful for those around me, and determined not to lose the happiness I've gained, I'll continue moving forward and living my life to the fullest.